Cesar Pagan is the host of Beyond the Frequency 369. His mission is to remind people of who they truly are before the world convinces them otherwise. We are here to experience what we are not, to explore these experiences with curiosity and depth, sharing insights that encourage others to see the beauty and purpose in every aspect of life. Welcome, Cesar, to Broadcasting Seeds.
All right, we are live. So Cesar Pagan,
Yes, correct.
is that right? Okay. From Beyond the Frequency podcast, welcome.
Beyond the Frequency 369.
Oh, 369 podcast. Damn, see, I'm already messing this up.
Sorry.
369 podcast. Welcome to Broadcasting Seeds. Tell us who you are and what you do.
Awesome. Well, Bennett, first of all, I appreciate you having me on your podcast. I'm honored. I'm humbled. I'm sitting in gratitude as we speak. So yes, my podcast is called Beyond the Frequency 369. And my name is Cesar Pagan. And Pagan is not pagan, not a heathen. Just to cover that, I don't worship anything. So just to make that clear, my nationality is half Puerto Rican, half Panamanian. So Pagan is a Puerto Rican last name. So yeah, my day job is actually a software developer, and my passion is podcasting. So this is where I wanted to start a podcast a long time ago, but I just didn't know. I had an idea that I wanted to do it, but I didn't know why I wanted to do it. You have to have a reason, a purpose, a mission, an objective, so to speak. And it took me a while to find that out. So I say probably about 2 years ago, I started getting into my awakening journey. So I started to wake up to a lot of things. I was awake before, but I really started diving into the esoteric knowledge and the supernatural world and the power of the conscious mind. Instead of the power of the universe, is about the power of the universe. So I started going with that, and I pulled the trigger probably last September of last year. Decides, okay, I know my purpose. I know what I want to do. I need to get it out there. For a lot of people that awake, there's this knowledge, there's this innate feeling of love that pushes you to want to tell everybody. Like when you fall in love with something or with somebody, you want to go on top of the highest mountain and just scream it out. Well, this is how I felt, just to use it as a metaphor to my awakening journey and the things that I've learned, and um, now I have an understanding. I don't say I believe in anything. I have an understanding of certain things. I don't.
It's so smart, man.
Yeah, yeah, because it goes a whole different route if you say, "Oh, well, I believe this and I believe that," but I understand certain things until something else comes up. Something else that really resonates with me that will make me have a different understanding. I don't follow any organized religion, but I am spiritual. I do believe in a creator. Yeah, there's something out there. but I don't follow religion because, to my current understanding, I feel that religion is the middleman between you and the creator. So I just put it off to the side. Anything that tells me that you have to follow these particular rules, you have to live your life a certain type of way, you can only talk to these type of people. Eventually, once I got to the third or fourth rule, it doesn't resonate with me. It doesn't make sense to me if I'm supposed to be just for this purpose free. So, anyways, so I decided to do a podcast to not only be able to speak on those understandings, but also to create a platform and contribute, just like you are, just like other podcasters out there, to contribute to the cause, for lack of better words. Um, I call it the great work, and maybe we can probably go into that later on in this interview. But my objective to having this podcast and having these conversations is to remind people of who they truly are before the world convinces them otherwise. And I'll stop there for now.
No, man, I love it. I think it's great. You hit all kinds of points there for me. But I don't like rules, man. I'm the same way. I mean, you know what I'm saying. Especially when it comes to people telling me what I should and shouldn't believe. And because as soon as as I was laughing because you were saying, as soon as you put yourself in that box, you find that you got to cut yourself out of it and be like, no, man. Actually, I believe this. No, wait. I believe this. So you know, there's certain unalienable things that I believe in, but the rest of it, man, like I'm a sponge. Teach me something new, right? Agreed. I totally am there with you. But the first question that I've got, and I ask all my guests, is you've sort of touched on it already, but so like to this crazy world of high strangeness and stuff that we talk about and that we are always exposed to, like Bigfoot was my gateway drug, I guess is the way to describe it, right? Sasquatch and or paranormal stuff too. What was really your, like, why you wanted to do a podcast? You want to get word out there about stuff, but why this niche? Like, what got you here?
Yeah, I appreciate that question, Bennett. Bennett, I understand how powerful I am, truly, and I'm not talking about the meat suit. I understand who I truly am, the essence of who I am. And but even though I have that understanding, there's so much to still learn about that. So the podcast is an opportunity, a gateway, if you will, to allow me to have conversation with like-minded people, have them share their stories, their experiences on how they navigate through this realm, how they understand it to be. Um, and as I talk to more and more of these fascinating individuals, I I see that we all want the same thing. We all want peace. We all want love. But before we get there, before a lot of these fascinating individuals get to their awakening, we all go through the same process. We're born, and then we're indoctrinated with all this dogma and You know, once we hit kindergarten, once we hit the education system, we're given, you know, they'll tell you that your creative side, slow that down, start using your logical side. This is how you process information. This is what you do. Don't put things in your mouth, you know, as a baby. Don't put things in your mouth. Don't do this. Don't do that. Um, this is how you should interact with people. This is how you should wear these clothes and things like that. And and then we end up forgetting who we are. Goes back to my original statement as we forget, you know, I'm trying to remind everybody of who we truly are before the world convinces otherwise. And fast forward, you live your life in as the culture, the neighborhood, the ethnicity, education, the company that you were with, and then you die. And then you find out who you truly are. Then you're like, dang, what did I do? What I am remembering that I came here to experience what I am not. And the intention, it was intentional for me to come here to forget what I truly am in order to have this experience. And somewhere along the line, you know, you have people that come into your life that are mentors, spiritual guides, whatever the case is, in your experience to remind you, hey, turn left here. Hey, you might want to take this road. Um, and we're so taught to ignore those things and those people just because they don't fall into the indoctrinated culture society that we're told, you know, if I'm a middle class person, because that's what I was put into, I can't talk to someone, you know, uh, less fortunate than me because they just don't fit this, you know. And so yeah, so I know I realize who I am, and I want to talk to more people that are on their journey to remember who they are, and let's have that conversation.
Yeah, I get it. Yeah, man. Um, I do. I get that. I mean, it hits with me for sure. I so many people put themselves and others in boxes, man, and it's painful. So I totally, anything that I can do to help folks. I mean, it's kind of the point of this podcast, broadcasting seeds, right? I think the biggest, for me, the biggest hurdle that I get from people is fear. And everybody's afraid of everything. And that's just their culture. Well, that's just the world, right? It's trying to keep everybody like this is the path you should take. And everything's about fear, right? Fear of missing out, fear of not having enough, fear of all the fear mongering, right? And so it's nice to see somebody else that's just trying to expand people's, yeah, because without fear, where's their love? Where's their faith? Where's any of that coming? It's all stifled by fear. So if you don't get rid of that, you're never going to move forward, right? And beyond the frequency, right?
Yeah,
I get it. I
love
get
it.
it all, man. Yeah, you're speaking my language, speaking my language, man. So,
Yeah.
um, so, so, so what is your favorite thing, about this pod? How long have you been doing the podcast then? Since last September? Is that what you said?
A few months, yeah.
So not very long, right?
Yeah, for the podcast, I haven't been doing this for too long, but I've been on this mindset, talking to other people outside the camera for a while.
Right, right. And you, so is it just like friends, family, or is it like people? Like, do you have like like any groups or anything that you like
Yeah,
interact with folks?
yeah, that's a fair question. So yes, not well. Let me go back to this. When you're on this road, it's lonely.
Oh yeah, baby. It is. I agree. I agree.
But at first, I didn't understand. I'm like, hey, I, there's, there, we're better than this. There is so much information out there outside of mainstream. Come take a look. And I wasn't prepared to find out there's a lot of people that be complacent. They see a fire, they're like, I see a fire, but I don't want to pay attention to that. I don't care. Well, hey, like there's like, this is a lie. Like, here's the actual proof. Yeah, I see it, but I kind of like my life the way it is. And I had to take a while, Bennett, to be okay with that. Because if you're asleep, as most people are, if I came up to you and just shook you, you're not ready, right? I don't want to shake people. So I conversate with those that want to hear it. I put my stuff out there. Those that come in to my reality, we'll talk. I don't mind planting the seeds. I think we should. Part of my objective as what I call the great work is to plant the seeds of, hey, what do you think about this? Or what do you think about that? And just have people just marinate on it for a little bit. And when I say plant the seed, if they choose to water that seed, they know where to come. They know where to talk to. And not just me, but anybody in the esoteric uh, world and understanding. And so yes, it was lonely. And I'll tell you this, Bennett, when I first got into this understanding, I woke up, just literally just woke up from one day to the next, and I had a meltdown, a complete meltdown. Like, I was talking a lot of information to my fiance, then now wife, and you know she did her damnness to be supportive, like what's going on here, but logically from her end, he he just lost a bolt. Like he's out there. And I didn't understand. I was like, I thought you loved me, you're supposed to understand me and things like that, but I still need to figure out what the hell am I talking about. So I went through a process by myself, no real guidance. And I learned then that what was happening was, when you awake, you disconnect yourself from the foundations that you had, and now you're just floating around, and you can't land in the other place yet because you don't know where it is. And in this transitional period is where a lot of people go different ways. Some people, hate to say, take themselves out. Some people go what some would say the demonic ways. And I don't believe in demons or anything like that because of my current understanding. But let's just for shits and giggles, people go into the demonic ways. People go into like super extreme spiritual ways and things. People try to find their way until they can land somewhere, stick the landing, so to speak, and then walk from there, whatever that path is. Um, Ben, I don't know if I answered your question. you did ask if I had groups and things like that. No, I don't have per se groups, but I do have people who reach out to me, and I take time to speak with them, whether it be online or actually in person. People within my community. No, first they were confused. They were just like, he must be the UFO guy. I was like, well, no, not really, but I understand why you would think that. You
Yeah.
know, so it's not like I carry a billboard saying, "Here's all the things."
Hey, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
No, I've learned getting into this stuff, and I've been into this for a while. And I'm okay with people thinking that I'm crazy or I'm a lunatic or whatever. That's fine. Sooner or later you'll come around, right? It's nice to hear that you have folks that you can talk to, though, which is huge. And we all need those people. Like, none of us can be lone wolves, especially in this, line of work, because it's lonely, brother. It can be so lonely in this space, especially because, we talk about some crazy stuff every single day. Like, the stuff I research on, my wife's like, what are you doing? Like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, hey, this is what I'm being told. This is what's speaking to me right now, whether it's black-eyed kids or, Donald Trump and Ingersoll Lockwood's books or whatever, man. Like, there's all this stuff, right? And people can look at you like you're out of your mind. So the fact that the reason I ask is because so many people don't have support, and I'm a veteran, so I come from a tribe that has had it rough a little bit here and there lately, and well, not really lately, but for the past 20 years, let's just call it. And at the end of the day, we all need somebody to talk to. So,
Yeah. I'm a veteran
I-
too.
a lot. Oh, are you? Which
Yeah,
branch?
I was in the Air Force.
Okay.
Yeah. You were
No,
Marine?
I did Marine. All right, so I'm triple qualified, well, dual qualified. So I did Marines, and then I went in the Army. I got out, then I went in the Army, and then I got out of the Army, and I was an Air Force civilian for quite a while. I worked at Tyndall Air Force Base down in Florida, and then I went from there to the VA and worked there as a peer support specialist for years, helping folks do counseling, all the things, you know, and that was awesome. But again, draining. And if you can't take care of yourself, you can't take care of others. So I had to get out of it all and do stuff like this.
Yeah,
So
yeah. It's,
yeah,
let me ask you a question.
yeah.
This is, do you find these conversations therapeutic for you?
Oh, of course. Absolutely. Plus, it just opens me up to new people, new friends, new ideas. That's what it's all about, man. Um, and I'm a huge proponent of just rising tides raises all ships. And, you know, we're building a community, right, of like-minded folks, mostly. And some people aren't, some people are, right? And if we would never know unless we talk to each other. So, this is the Broadcasting Seeds podcast, but it's also civil discourse, because there's a lot of times when I've had plenty of conversations during podcasts that weren't so civil. But you know what I'm saying, man.
It's
It's
interesting. Yeah, it's interesting. And that's the part about communication that I see that, a lot of people, let me say this. And first of all, again, thank you for your service, by the way, and everything.
thank you for yours as well.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Communication is hard for a lot of people. When it doesn't vibe with their narrative. And one thing that you and I both probably can agree on is that while in the military, we got to meet other cultures. And I met a lot of people that um, I was told are bad people, and not, I didn't feel that way.
No,
And
absolutely.
yeah, you know, and they would talk and show nothing but kindness, share their stories. And guess what? They too have a they too have red blood flowing through them, and they eat the same way, and they put the pants on, you know, one leg at a time, you know.
Yeah,
And they and I'm just like, I don't get it. Why are we why are we fighting? And they're like, I don't know either, you know.
it's such a waste of time and
It is.
energy. Um, I, yeah, I don't get it. I just don't get it. Um, I mean, where in so you're Puerto Rican, part Puerto Rican, right? Have you ever been to Puerto Rico?
I have, yeah, I've been to Puerto Rico. I have
What,
Panamanian as well, so been there.
where's your family from in Puerto Rico?
My dad is from what's called Rio Piedra, in Puerto Rico. I mean, most people always say San Juan because it's one of the, you know, easiest places
Yeah,
to. Um, so yeah, he's from there, but he's what you would call a New Yorican. So like
gotcha. Yeah, yeah.
Puerto Rican, but raised in New York, Bronx area and stuff. And so yeah,
The only reason I ask is one of my best friends when I was growing up. I've been to Puerto Rico a few times with him and his family. Um, so I love Puerto Rico, man. I mean,
yeah. You thinking about ever retiring?
yeah, it's possible, man.
Yeah.
I mean, I was yeah, my wife and I have been kind of talking about it. I mean, I'm only 50, so I'm not that old, but you know,
I thought you were younger, man, but
yeah, most people do. I don't know. It is what it is, but yeah, life's too short, man. To I mean, I've done well for myself, so I can't. I'm blessed. You know, I struggled, had to, you know, all the things. I've got a story, but just like we all do. But at the end of the day, I'm getting to a point now where maybe you know, in Puerto Rico is one of those places. There's a whole bunch of podcasters, like it's part of the, you know, it's still a U.S. territory, but there's a whole lot of you would call them expats if they like lived in Belize or in Panama, right? But a whole clan of podcasters that are working from Puerto Rico, but also Panama and Belize too, man. There's a pretty big populations of folks that are doing what we're doing down there. They just spend a lot of money on a good internet connection and then live the beach life and
yeah,
whatnot.
yeah.
Yeah.
And just talk about what's in their heart.
Yeah, right. I've got a couple other friends that are in Mexico doing this too, and they just it's, you know, man, filling hearts and minds with different ideas to get people to think outside the box and not get a. I always think of that song. They remember that show a few years ago called Weeds. Did you ever watch that? It was on Showtime. It was about a middle-aged white woman in California that started selling marijuana because her husband, right? And it was called Weeds. But the theme song was called Little Boxes. And
Mm.
I just, whenever I think of like what I don't want, is that those little boxes, and I gotta, you know, I can't live in it. So
Let's talk about.
I had to change my glasses because the
Oh, you're fine.
something is bothering me with the light. But anyway, yeah, let's dive into that. Go right ahead.
Well, we'll talk about, you mentioned boxes. You hate boxes, or you dislike, or they make you feel some type of way. Let me ask you a question, Bennett. Have you ever seen a straight line in nature?
A what? A straight line? No, very few.
Or it doesn't exist?
Right.
It doesn't exist. Even if, let's say, you find something in nature that might look like a straight line, at the end of the day, when you look closer, it's still jagged or something, right?
Right.
Boxes are man-made, as we know. Right, triangles, squares, rectangles, hexagons, all of these different shapes are man-made. That also might be a reason why it doesn't vibe with you, because it's not
Yeah.
a natural state.
Perfect. Great.
Great
observation, my friend. There you go. Yeah.
If anybody ever asks you, why don't you like boxes? You'd be like, you ask them that question.
Because they're not natural.
Yeah, they're not natural. They're not natural.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
Sure. Yeah, for sure. So of the folks that you've had on your podcast, who well, that's not really a fair question, but you know what?
I know where you're going with it.
Yeah, give me some folks that have really like piqued your, mind. Not like who's your favorite guest? Because then all your guests can be like, what? So
Yeah, I don't have a favorite guest.
right.
Like I said earlier, everybody
I'm
is
saying you have a favorite kid, man. No, it doesn't work that way.
You know what's funny? It's a funny joke, real quick, before I answer that question regarding your favorite kid situation. I have two boys. I have a 17 and a 14-year-old, and every time I hug them, I whisper in their ear, "You're my favorite," and I hug the other one and tell them the same thing too.
I give my daughters a hard time the same way.
Yeah, they're like, "Well, Dad told me. Well, he told me too." So
Yeah, at least you have boys. I mean, I have 4 girls, bro.
oh wow, hey,
That's
good for you.
That's karmic somehow. I'm just saying. Somebody's trying to teach me something.
You are trying to teach.
Right, exactly. But either way, anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
But to answer your question,
It's awesome.
thank you. So yeah, again, no favorite guest, but every guest, what they bring is, it's always a new experience, a new story from their experience, from their life, right? Let me put it this way. I look at every single person, let's say, is talking about you and me, as an individual frequency. You're 94.1, I'm 94.2, but we're all stemming from the same radio station. Okay. So now you have to experience your life as Bennett. I had to experience my life as Cesar. And then when we're done, when this body is expired, we take that data, that experience, what we've learned, and take it to whatever source is, or some will call God, or whatever the creator is. And for some people, they don't finish their experience. They don't learn the lesson. So they incarnate back into the cycle to learn. This is why you have people who've done past life regressions and have seen themselves in different lives, pretty much doing the same thing, and still trying to figure out, well, that's weird. Well, you're just it's hard to get a glimpse of something outside of your frequency, and not really having somebody be able to tell you what it is that you saw, because only you saw,
Right.
Your therapist or your hypnotist or whatever you want to call it, your coach, can only take you so far verbally, but whatever you see that's for you all. That's for you to see it alone and hopefully try to understand it. You know?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. The I like the idea of the frequencies, right? Well, because we are all different frequencies. Nobody sees the same frequencies. I mean, you might see the same frequencies literally, right? But everyone's range of frequency is different. Their tolerance is different, not just in visual, but also audio, and what they absorb and what they don't, or what they're trained to, or where they're at in their journey, what they're open to, right?
Right.
So how has you've been doing this a while, right? But what's been one of the most impactful things on your frequency, you know?
I think what's been really impactful for me has been knowing that there is a higher me, a higher self.
Yeah.
I understand that we are all frequency, we're all energy, but I've heard that so many times that I didn't really understand what that was. Okay, we're all energy, but what does that mean? Um, to add some to add some context to my understanding is like, where does he get his information and things like that? Um, what really got me on the journey was Egyptian mystic knowledge. I'm a big Egypt guy. I have, Egyptian
Kind of
tattoos of.
kind of in your logo as well. Just saying.
Yeah, yeah. In my logo, I have the Eye of Horus, Anubis statues, and little trinkets here and there. Um, and I end up finding out that there were ancient tablets, ancient tablets written into a word that I didn't know at the time, which is called cuneiform, which is for those that don't know, that's a little kind of like sticks, stick language. And I'm like, well, that's interesting.
I take a lot of notes, just so you know. So if
No,
you
by
see
all
me
means,
right in.
you're good. You're fine, Bennett. I appreciate it. And I was like, well, that's interesting. What are these? And I started finding out that they were stories. Let's just start off with that, just stories. That's the interesting. Now these stories started talking about things that I would have thought, based off of what I knew as my foundation, that people way back when shouldn't even be talking about. When you hear about ancient history, the first thing that comes to mind at the time was that these people were less advanced than us. They were, some would say, stupid.
Helpful.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm just like, okay, like how the heck do how the heck do they know the solar system? How do they know where the planets are? How do they know about, certain star systems, constellations, the names of certain things? And then on top of that, they have a story of creation. Now, the only creation story that I knew was God said, "Let there be light." That's all that I knew. But these folks are talking about something else. And on top of that, they didn't say God as in singular, they said gods, or some would say, Elohim or Nephilim and all these different things. And I'm like, wait a minute, what is happening here? And then what's even more surprising, Bennett, is that a lot of this information is available to you, whether it be online in this day and age, whether it be at museums, or just people taking the years out of their life to just be able to decipher and translate things to get the message out. And I then say, wow, if this information, if these stories are older than the Bible stories, then is it the chicken or the egg?
Yeah.
So, yeah. So I say, well, let me take a look at these. And Bennett, in my research, I end up seeing that certain things that were in the Bible were already said 450,000 years ago, just slightly, I'll use the term remixed. I Googled simple definition, Bennett. What is the Bible? And literally in the first sentence before the period, it said a collection of stories. And I said, wow. So I'll stop there. But the point is that mainstream has a narrative and they want people to follow it. But then if you get off that path, then you fall into the groupings of crazy, or those are just campfire stories. And then people either choose to dismiss it or pursue it. And I chose to pursue it.
Yeah. I mean, it's not just the Egyptians either. If you do, I mean, the overwhelming thing that I find in doing research in all of this stuff, and whether it's just the Egyptians, or you go to the Sumerians, or you go over to India or China even, or anywhere across the, down to South America, the stories all rhyme. They might not be exactly the same, but they surely rhyme, which says a lot to me. That we don't, as much as we think we know the answers, we don't know the answers. We don't. We can put together educated guesses and come up with cool stories and weave all these things together, right? But at the end of the day, we don't know, right? And I mean, we believe what we can believe and don't believe certain things, and people make decisions, right? But I love the so have you ever been to Egypt?
I haven't. It's on my bucket list. It's on my bucket list. I've been to Iraq,
Yeah.
Those,
and that's legit, man. That's a cool place.
yeah,
There's
so
stuff there that you can't see other places, and that's the only place stuff is. So,
well, I mean, it's looking at the ancient tablets that I've read, that's where it all started.
yeah, right.
Egypt, before it was Egypt, it was known as Kemet.
Yep.
And which is also where we get our words, like alchemy, chemistry, and things like that. But it's not just Egyptian stuff. That was my introduction into the esoteric.
Well, of course.
Yeah, I mean, the Emerald tablets, the Epic of Gilgamesh, the Enuma Elish, the Hatrahasis. I mean, there's the Tarot Scroll papers. There's so many different, and that's just not even the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah.
And so those definitely walked me in. When I told you earlier in this beginning of this podcast, I mentioned to you about when you find a lot of information, you awaken, you detach yourself. What was my comfort zone to help me digest this was going back to that information.
Yeah.
And as that information was becoming more dense in my mind, in my soul, I started now stop floating, and I started kind of slowly coming back down, grounding myself to a new foundation, And one of the things that I noticed regarding like spreading the word or talking to other people is religion to people is part of their identity. You start poking at it, and it's scientifically proven that it physically creates physical pain. And I thought that it was just someone's just general idea. So I'm just saying, okay, what's the big deal? I'm telling you all this information. Wake up, But when I started realizing, Bennett, that it caused people pain, you're taking the yarn, and undoing that foundation that they worked so hard on. Or if they're on a boat, as a metaphor, you start poking holes on their boat, and they start to sink, where do they go? You know, like if I'm telling them something, I need to provide them a place. Here's another place to go, and here's why. So I got out of the business of trying to shake everybody up, because it's making me look crazy, and it was hurting people.
Plus,
You
it's
know,
exhausting.
it's exhausting too, Bennett. You're right. It's exhausting. So I say, you know what? Uh, because I understand how powerful we are, I understand somatic frequency. And I understand that we have the power, when we speak, we create, we move mountains, you know? And that's, if you can imagine well, you know, as a human, how much power you have when you speak to certain people and certain things, you make things happen. No, that is just the tip of your fingernail as a human, as outside of your body, as the light energy being the God figure, if you will, that you are. Speaking is it's incredible, you know. Abracadabra, which they have dumbed it down to a stupid magic word, is actually a very powerful word. And in translation, and I may not quote this correctly, but is I create as I speak. You know, there's and I forgot what the dictionary is, but there's an online dictionary where you can look at the meanings and breakdowns of words. I think it's called etymology or something like that. I I, I don't know. I don't know. But anyways, and you take a word that you're curious about, and it breaks down to you that word 5, 6 different times, all the way back to its source. And you find out, wow, a lot of words were just, the meaning of words were just changed.
Yeah.
And then you got to ask yourself, why were they changed? Well, you only change something if you want to change the narrative. You know, you want to take away the power of that word, the true power of that word.
Yeah,
Anyways.
entomology, unfortunately, is the scientific study of insects. But I know where you're going, and the only reason I'm looking, is because I am intrigued.
Yeah.
You're on the right track.
Yeah. Let me see. I'm gonna see. I might find it here.
And I knew like entomology. I'm like, man, that's bugs, I think. But
yeah.
but it's the study of language.
Yeah. I could have swore I said this somewhere too. I apologize. I probably shouldn't
No,
have
no,
put out there
no.
with that.
No worries. I just, and I'm not trying to make linguistics, but there's something else.
It's there.
Semantics, morphology, syntax, pragmatics, neurolinguistics. I mean, these are all gray words, but that's not the one.
It should just come up. I don't see.
Damn, man, I don't remember. But yes.
Yeah. I think I found it. It's spelled ETYMON. I'm sorry, ETYMOLOGY. So etymology, or ETYMOLOGY. Do you see anything coming up there?
Yeah.
It says
Study the origin of words.
yeah, the origin of words.
Etymology.
Yeah. Okay, so I said entomology, but yeah.
Etymology. Yes. So you are, in my opinion, 100% right. I mean, at the end of the day, our words have power, right? They just do. They create. They have power on both sides of the veil.
Mm-hmm.
They just do. And I just don't think people understand that they do. And
why don't they understand that, right?
I don't know. At the end of the day, too, person or the thing that your words have the most effect on is yourself. And if we talked, this is something I say to my kids all the time, people like the veterans that I've helped and all these people, if you talked to someone the way that you talk to yourself, it's heinous, man. That's the only, it's awful. And it starts there at the end of the day. If you can't look yourself in the mirror and speak kind words and tell yourself that you love yourself, you got some work to do. Some serious work, right?
Yeah.
I mean, this is my opinion, but it goes way beyond my opinion.
No, your opinion is on point, Bennett. Yeah.
In my life, it's mattered so much. And I do a lot of stuff, man. I just got off a 40-day fast.
Wow.
Yeah, I had straight biblical fast.
Wow. 40 days?
Yeah, just water, black coffee, and tea with some magnesium and electrolytes. And I just finished on Tuesday evening. So what's today? Wednesday. Yesterday evening.
What's your reason behind it?
It was a couple. It was twofold. It was seriously spiritual. And because I wanted to strip all of it away, strip everything away, just lots of praying, lots of reading, lots of things, lots of meditating, breathing, just strip it all away. I've had over the last few years, I've had some just issues with stuff inside myself, and or I could even say entities that were influencing me in negative ways, right? Not like life-threatening, but at the end of the day, stuff I didn't want in my brain, stuff I didn't want to do, all the things. So I stripped it all away. And also like disease prevention, health and overall health, and literally resetting from scratch. Because if you can't reset in 40 days, what's going on physically? And I've obviously, like, weight loss was a side effect, but that wasn't the reason why. It was all 90% of it was spiritual. And I learned so much. I thought that I had known a lot about myself, but when you strip it all back, man, because food is what it is, right? It's sustenance for us. But at the end of the day, when you strip that stuff away, it's not the hunger that your body feels. It's all right here. And it's powerful, man. Fasting is powerful. Not just, people, it's kind of a buzzword. Oh, I'm intermittent fasting and but where does that all come from? There's a very spiritual aspect to fasting, and through all cultures, all of it, all cultures, all religions, all the stuff. There's fasting is something that happens constantly. Whether you're talking about Buddhism, whether you're talking about monks, whether you're talking about, folks in Japan, folks in South America, fasting has always been a thing, right? So
good for you. I'm very glad to hear that you're doing that, and I'm glad that you were able to complete it.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It's wild.
40 days is a bit extreme, and I would never say, yeah, you should do a 40-day fast, but to each their own. But at the end of the day, I feel like people can learn a lot about themselves by doing stuff like, it doesn't have to be 40 days. It can be one day.
Yeah. Or a weekend or something.
So many people are like, oh, I could never do that for 3 days or one day.
Yeah.
But you'll learn a lot about yourself in the 72-hour fast, like a weekend, like you said. It'll uncork some stuff, man.
How
It
do you
doesn't
feel?
seem like it should. Great. I feel great. I feel lighter, free of a lot of things. And I look back now and I'm like, where, I don't even know what I was so stressed out about or so whatever. It just kind of shows that so much of this stuff that we get hung up on in this world, and this is kind of the point of your whole podcast and stuff, is so much of what we worry about is nonsense.
It's
And
about nonsense.
yeah,
That
nonsense, my friend.
nonsense. So you one of the reasons why I know that we are more than just our body. There's so much maintenance.
So much. Yeah.
We have to feed it. We have to keep it in shape, if you will. We have to maintain it. It gets sick. It hurts. I mean, for people to be okay to believe that this is all that we are is hopefully eventually they will realize that that's not the truth. I don't say that I'm not saying directly that they're wrong. I'm not saying anybody is stupid. None of that stuff, because I was wrong or stupid or whatever name, whatever label that we could put on it before I realized what the truth was. And when I say truth, I don't want to sound like, and I probably do to some people, like some kind of Jehovah Witness or something like that. But Jehovah Witness, just to be clear, it's a religion.
Yeah.
And I made it clear early that I don't follow a religion. I have an understanding, and my understanding leads me to knowing that we are older. Like, I'm 42 years old, but that's temporal.
Yeah.
That's
Right.
this body, this car, this model, this make is 42 years old.
Right.
But you and I,
The meat suit.
the meat suit, right? The meat suit, that's how old we are, and we try to maintain. We put oil in it,
Yeah.
we service it. We
Do the best we can. Right.
right, but eventually, just like that vehicle, this vehicle, kaput.
Yeah.
So, and then the driver of that vehicle continues on,
Absolutely.
and so I think, I'm aware of that. I'm aware of that because I'll say this. I've seen to give it a name, that doesn't really have a name, but I've seen my light body,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know. Other folks can say that they've seen it through near-death experiences, through astral projection, which is a mainstream term, but whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I call it an out-of-body experience. Um, I'll- I can share that. I can share
Yeah.
one
I
thing.
was just going to ask, have you had an outer body experience or near death experience or
Not a
something?
near-death experience. In some sense, we actually die every night.
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
But um, you know, um,
Details though.
yeah, details. I'll tell you my first experience, which is very short,
Yeah.
and we won't get into my other experience
For another show.
for another show. I like that pre-book. I like that
Yeah.
pre-book.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Um, so at one point I discovered that, people can actually, people leave their body. But it's always been through a story of uncontrolled, like without them knowing through a trauma. I then find out in my research that there's a way to control it. And you start reading about the Monroe's tapes, and the old CIA projects where, where you know, where they have people, I'm gonna use the mainstream term astral project or remote view or whatever and things like that, but all through a controlled state. Well, matter of fact, for those that are even listening to this podcast, you guys can even go on Google now because they've already declassified all that stuff that they said was BS. So you guys can even find out how to do it yourselves.
I mean, there's plenty of books on it too. Some of them written by the folks some of them written by the folks in those projects.
Yeah, exactly. So
they'll give you step-by-step instructions on how to astral project and or remote view.
Yeah, move your arm this way, turn this. I mean, they'll walk you through it like Sesame Street. But getting to my experience, I was going through my process. I have a different process. And I was laying in bed. It was probably about like 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning. Sun was barely almost up, but not up yet. I knew my wife, she was sleeping to my left, and I knew that she was about to get ready to get up to go to the restroom and things like that. And I'm just like, you know what? Let me try to what I call OBE. Let me try the OBE out of body experience real quick. And let me just see if I can do it. Because at this point, I was trying to. I was never able to have a successful OBE. But I knew the steps. I need to practice. You just have to kind of like everything else, just keep doing it until you get it right. Because it's not like leaving your body for the first time isn't something that you get taught in school. Okay.
Right. Not at all.
Not at all. Not at all. So anyways, I was doing my process, and after probably about an hour, I was like, you know what? I don't feel any different. Nothing's happening. Let me give it about another 5 minutes or so. As I was thinking that, my wife ends up moving, and you're supposed to kind of like stay perfectly still because any movement of the physical body reminds you that, hey, you know, you're here and you're trying to put your consciousness somewhere else outside of your body. She started moving the covers and everything, and I turned to her and I was like, babe, give me 5 minutes. Don't stop moving. Don't move. And she has sat up. She just ignored me and just got up and kept going. So I'm thinking, oh, she's probably like, thinking like, whatever, go to sleep or wake up or do something. But as I'm looking at her, I realized I was looking at her to my left, but then down.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, that's weird. Like my eye off and everything. I was seeing her from a higher view, and I used my peripheral, my right eye, looking down this way, and there was something laying there. There was something there. It wasn't just a pillow and sheets. There was something there.
Right.
And I was like, oh shit. And then I fell back into my body. I woke up with my physical eyes. I looked over. My wife wasn't there. She was in the restroom, meaning I saw her go there.
And she didn't hear you.
And she didn't hear me. So that was my first initial, okay, I'm onto something. And then it goes from there.
Yeah. Love it.
Yeah. So, because I didn't hear this from somebody else and I experienced it myself.
Yep.
Period.
Yeah.
I know that I exist exactly as I am, with my thoughts, with my curse words, with my mannerisms, with my ego. I am exactly the same person outside of my physical body. And that you have to take a moment and process your whole reality.
Yeah.
That it's still a trip today, Bennett. But there were a few moments that after I realized that, I broke down and I cried. I cried because I realized again what we truly are and how deep that knowledge is intentionally buried. Because once we all find out what this is, and this is real. This I'm not saying this is a hologram or anything like that. This is
Or simulation, right?
yeah. Well, and I'm glad that you said simulation. When people say that word, they picture computer, binary codes.
Absolutely correct.
Right. People think that. And I thought about that too, especially after we all watched The Matrix, right?
Yeah.
You know?
Oh
Um,
my,
yeah. But what I ended up finding out is that it is a simulation, but it's a divine
yes,
simulation.
yes.
And um, I'll just say now, Bennett, that there is more. Man, how do I say this? I just don't want to say certain things to like spook people because that's not the intent of.
Yeah.
You and I talked earlier. You mentioned about people being scared in a fear state.
Yep.
Fear is the only way to control people.
Oh yeah.
Fear and chaos. So I don't want to say something, especially for people who are just casually listening to this and don't have the software upgrade to receive that information. Because to the average person, there's things that I could say that would just be like, whoa, like time out. And I totally respect that.
Yeah.
I totally respect that. So I say that to then say this, that to get people at least thinking, to plant that seed, is that the what I would call the term home. I call it home because that's where well, to my understanding, that's where we're from. Home is more real than this physical reality. Yeah, I'll say that.
Yeah. I know I know exactly where you are, brother. And it blows people's mind. I mean, and it's one of those things. It's you gotta ease yourself into these things, right? Because
Yeah.
if you're drinking from a fire hose, it doesn't usually work out very well.
What a
Right.
great
Yeah.
analogy. I love that.
Yeah,
Drinking
man.
from a fire hose. Wow. Yeah.
It doesn't work out usually very well, right?
The water, the sustenance is great.
Yeah, it's there, but
Too much.
it's gonna rip stuff off, man. Yeah. No, I got it. It doesn't. It's painful, right? Um.
I
Yeah.
appreciate you, Bennett.
Yeah. Thanks, man.
I appreciate you. Yeah, I'm grateful for you, man. Thanks.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, to be honest, let's end it there. I want one more thing from you, and it's basically just give us some other words of wisdom to close it out. Like if you could tell folks, give them some sort of like, we're being cautious, right? But give them the first piece of bread to put on their, on the bread trail, on the of the crumbs that they can follow, your crumbs that you're dropping, so they can follow you, right? Give them that first little nugget to head them down. Well, I'll just call it a rabbit hole, um, on a journey, right?
Yeah. We are we have been taught for since birth on how to depend on things outside of us. We worship things. We put we give our power to things outside of us because we're taught that we don't know any better. When you're sick, You have to go to a doctor. You can't heal yourself. When you're losing your mind, go to a therapist. You don't know what you're talking about. If you want to get to a good place, talk to these people, talk to this group. And then we're always being taught to, worship things outside of us. So I use the word universe. Everybody talks about, look out into the universe and put out your wishes, because this sky daddy with a magic wand is going to grant all your wishes. And don't be mad if he doesn't do it right away. He's out there somewhere listening. So I ended up finding out that you have to go into the universe. Go into yourself. You are more powerful than you can ever imagine. And it's all based off of you believing that, your intention. Know what you want and go for it. Put a physical application to that understanding. There's a formula that I like to use, not an actual formula, but let's call it a spiritual formula. I don't even know if I should even do that one. What's the formula? Just believe in yourself. It's so corny. I know. Such a corny.
But it's not, man.
Yeah, it's just it's just something that it does resonate. So then I guess I know I'm all over the place with that, because I'm really trying to watch my words, but to lay down a breadcrumb, as you will, is take everything that you have been taught and that you think you know, and then question it. Question it. Whatever you learned 20 years ago, ask this question again. Same person or somebody else. See if you get the same answer. We'll go with that.
Absolutely. So tell everyone where they can find you.
Yeah, I appreciate that. So again, Beyond the Frequency 369, I have a website. It's under construction, but you can still actually access it. It tells you it's coming soon. And then there's also all my links to my other platforms. So again, at Beyond the Frequency 369. Make sure you do 369, because if you don't do that, it takes you somewhere else. And you can find me on YouTube, on Rumble, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Spreaker, Instagram, Facebook, all the places. You can find it. You can find it anywhere. Just Google it, and you should be able to find it.
And I'll put everything in the show notes too. So
yeah, I appreciate that.
Check the show notes and Beyond the Frequency 369.
369. Yeah, that logo there was just recently. I just put it together. That eye is an Egyptian eye. It's the eye of Horus. You guys can look that up if you want to know what that is. The gold rim around it is actually a Stargate. I don't know if you guys ever seen the movie Stargate. So again, the portal, right? So you guys can get that concept. The green inside there, inside that portal, is more like binary ones and zeros, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that has that to include also in the eye. And Beyond the Frequency, again, we all resonate at a particular frequency. We want to look beyond that frequency into the because we are multi-dimensional beings. So we want to look beyond that. And 369, if you guys don't know about 369, look it up. Tesla was in love with that number. Okay. So I love 369. I use it for everything. 369 is a powerful number. And Tessa says that once you understand the power of the 369, you'll understand everything.
Yeah, man. I love it. Thanks for coming on. And just hold on real quick.
Yeah, I got bad thoughts that make my mind scared. Hold me hostage and they don't fight fair. Who gon' pray for me and wipe all my tears? Who gon' save me if you not right here? Move this darkness and make my sight clear. Take me away cause I don't like here. Ghost of my past, they feeling the night air. Wake me up, I'm trapped in my nightmares. Wake me up, I'm trapped in my nightmares. Drowning, I'm off the deep end. Apparitions of all my demons. All my thoughts are committing treason. All alone, who gon' hear me screaming? Manifestations of my fears. Regrets that stretched out for light years. Can almost touch the light, homie, it's right there. Body free but trapped in my nightmares. Wake me up, don't let me drown.